ছড়াবে বা মালা পড়াবে পিছন দিকটা নিলে ব্যাক হয়ে যাবে। ঠিক এটা পসিবল তো? একটু ব্যাক 6 months back and then here.
Good afternoon to all of you present here. The Department of Humanities and Social Sciences welcomes you to the Professor Sujit Mohan Chanda Memorial Lecture being organized for the second time in your August presence. This time, it is being organized as an Endowment Lecture. The occasion is special for us as this year marks the completion of the birth centenary celebration of the legendary late professor. We shall begin our program by formally receiving our honorable guests and dignitaries. We request our honorable director sir, who is also the chairperson in charge, Board of Governors of this institute, Professor Arvind Choubey, our chief guest, and speaker of the day, Dr Suman Jana, to grace the dais. I request Dr Arvind Choubey, Head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, to escort them to the dais. Now we request the dignitaries present on the dais to light the auspicious lamp. We pray the light emanating from the lamp may dispel the darkness of ignorance and kindle the spirit of knowledge and wisdom in all of us.
फैन को बंद कर दीजिए।
सर एक मिनट सर गाइडलाइन क्या है? अच्छा
Director sir, to lead the endowment lecture,
कैसे बोल रहे हो? नीचे का একটু ভালো হয়ে যেতে হয়। স্যার অনেক ঠিক হয়ে যাবে। বাইরে করে বাহার করে দিয়েছে স্যার, বাইরে করুন ওদিক থেকে দেবে পিছনে।
ठीक है बंद दीजिए मैम।
we now request the honorable guests, the faculty members, and the family members of Professor Chanda to pay their respects to the late professor by offering flowers. We will now have to, I request the PhD scholars of the department to recite the Saraswati Vandana. I request the head of the department, Dr. Arvind Choubey, to felicitate our Honorable Director, sir, with a bouquet and an utturiyo. Now I request our Honorable Director, sir, to felicitate the Chief Guest, Dr. Suman Jana, with a bouquet and an utturiyo. Now I request our head of the department to deliver the welcome address.
Our Honorable Director Sir, who is also the chairperson of the Board of Governors of our institute at present, our Chief Guest Dr. Suman Jana, Professor Rama Kundu, who is probably the main source behind this program, my faculty colleagues from my department as well as from other departments of our institute, our scholars and students. So it is a matter of great joy for all of us that we could observe here the 100th birth anniversary of the legendary Professor Dr. Sujit Mohan Chanda. We began the celebration last year, and this year marks the completion of his birth anniversary celebration. Today means this year, it is the 101st birth anniversary year of the legendary professor. Dr. Chanda started his journey from IIT Kharagpur, and before that also he was associated with a few newspapers and a few colleges in Kolkata, and then he joined the IIT Kharagpur as a lecturer of English since the inception of IIT Kharagpur. And when RE College, Regional Engineering College Durgapur, was established in 1960, he came over here and joined this institute and served this institute till his retirement. So it is quite a matter of privilege and honor for this institute that such a professor who groomed so many young scholars and students all through his academic life, that he decided to spend his most of his working life, professional life here at our institute. So he was, I can say, that one of the founding members of this department, and it is because of him that our department, I can assure you, that has grown to such importance even today. So even during his time, as I have learned from some of his colleagues, that even principals and directors would ask him to accompany whenever foreign delegates, foreign people would come to the institute. He was a tall person in terms of his physical appearance and also a tall person in terms of his intellectual achievement, his academic achievement. Besides teaching at the then RE College, Durgapur, he also spared his time on Saturdays in the second half to teach at Bardwan University in the Department of English as a part-time faculty member. And there he taught with much elan, energy and spirit the fiction paper. And he was so popular among the students that even though it was a Saturday, it was on Saturdays that he would conduct those classes, the students would eagerly wait for him to listen to that professor. And Dr. Rama Kundu, who herself is a student of Dr. Chanda and did her PhD with Dr. Chanda, and Dr. Suman Jana, he also was a student of Professor Chanda. So they are testimonies, and there are many other scholars of Professor Chanda who bear testimony to his academic height, his academic richness. And this endowment lecture, it came to our mind when Dr. Rama Kundu suggested some 2 years ago that she wanted to do something for her teacher. And she wanted to have a kind of endowment fund where she would like to contribute, and from the proceeds of that endowment fund, some academic activities would be conducted by NIT Durgapur, where our teachers spend most of the time. And we readily accepted the proposal, and I am thankful to my colleagues that they supported me in this endeavor, and because of this teamwork of us that we could achieve this, we could do this, and this is the second year that we are conducting this program. We are organizing this program. And when Dr. Chanda's daughter, Mrs. Sulekha Sen, came to know about this suggestion of Ramadim, she also joined in this matter, and she also contributed to the fund, and that's how we created the endowment fund. And from this year, we are organizing this program from the proceeds of that fund only. So we are thankful and grateful to both Ramadi and Mrs. Sulekha Sen. She is on the way. She is coming to this program. She will join us soon. And we are also thankful to our director sir and all the competent authority of the institute who have always been supporting us in our academic endeavors. Our purpose is only to enrich the academic repertoire of our students, to enrich our students with some kind of interaction with well-known people, well-known professors in the field of academia. Hope you will enjoy this program today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before we request our Honorable Director, sir, to address the delegates, we would love to introduce him to the audience. I request Dr. Sri Kishan Rai, faculty member of the department and public relations officer of the institute, to introduce our Honorable Director, sir.
Thank you very much for this honor. I am really honored that I am going to give the introduction of our Honorable Director, who has been here since 27th July 2023. And before this, he was the Director of IIIT Bhagalpur, and he is like the retired professor, HAG, which is the top-notch position in the field of academia. He is HAG Professor of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering at NIT Jamshedpur. Professor Choubey served as the Director of Indian Institute of Information Technology, Bhagalpur from 26th April 2019 to 25th July 2023. He also held the position of Director in Charge, Indian Institute of Technology, Indian Institute of Information Technology, Ranchi. Along with holding such prestigious positions, Professor Choubey also served as the Dean, Faculty Welfare and Member Senate of NIT Jamshedpur, as Executive Committee Member of AICTE, New Delhi. And here I would like to emphasize that AICTE is the most apex body of governing for all engineering colleges, apart from NIT and IIT. So he was the Executive Committee Member of AICTE, New Delhi, and presently he is the BOG member of IIIT Allahabad. He also graced the chair of Head of the ECE department at NIT Jamshedpur during 2005 and 2011 and 2013. Adding to his accolades, Professor Choubey is a fellow member of Institute of Engineers, member of IEEE, life member of Indian Society for Technical Education, and was also Secretary cum Treasurer for Jharkhand and Bihar of Indian Society of Technical Education. He was the member of Program Committee of various international conferences. During his illustrious career, he was awarded Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee National Eminent Academician Award by Chanakya Foundation in 2019, and his name is published in Who's Who in the World publication in November 2009, USA. Professor Choubey was the chairman of 2 sessions of IEEE World Congress in Computational Intelligence in 2008, Hong Kong. Apart from being the keynote speaker, he chaired the session of 3rd IEEE International Conference on Computational Intelligence and Communication Technology in 2017, Bangkok. He visited and presented research papers in France, Switzerland, Italy, UK, Hong Kong and Bangkok, and represented his institute team DRIEFT Project Formulate SAE from September 1 to 7, 2012 in Japan. Spanning almost 38 years in teaching and research, I think this should be marked by everyone that 38 years in research and teaching and research. Professor Choubey's present research interests are digital signal processing, digital communication, antenna design and soft computing. He has supervised the research work of 7 PhD scholars and also supervised more than 25 MTech dissertations. He has applied for 4 patents in the year 2020, which was now under examination. He has published 2 books and 9 book chapters and more than 70 research papers in international journals and conferences. Adding to his laurels, Professor Choubey has been the expert member of various interview boards such as UPSC, New Delhi, Public Service Commission Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand for faculty recruitment. Now here I would like to emphasize again this particular line because UPSC is the governing body, is the body which is like responsible for the recruitment of Indian administrative services, the top-notch officials, the administrations. So sir was the member of this board, UPSC New Delhi, as well as Public Service Commission Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. It means maybe there are many officers who are serving at present may be recruited by sir only. So it's a matter of great honor and it's a matter of prestige for NIT Durgapur also. He developed an AI-based COVID-19 detection software, COVID-19 pandemic, which was approved by ICMR New Delhi, another accolade, and it's a kind of jewel in our reputation of NIT Durgapur, that in the time of this odd time of COVID-19, sir has developed this software, AI-based COVID-19 detection software, and it is approved by ICMR New Delhi. Further, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has taken cognizance of the software and is in process of integration with Sanjeevani application. Professor Choubey has also developed artificial intelligence module for detection of pest and disease of major crops of Bihar and received a consultancy project of an amount rupees 75.02 lakhs from Bihar Agricultural University, Bhagalpur. It is first time developed module in world. Here I would like to emphasize that being a son of an agriculturist, like from a family of agriculturists, this is very important thing, very relevant also, and I am very hopeful that in coming future we all will be using for the development of India, the whole country, by 2047, the vision given by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, when we will be achieving this Viksit Bharat concept, then this particular software will be very helpful for us. So I request all of you to give a big round of applause to sir for this creation and development. Thank you, sir. Now, in addition to this, sir, just one last paragraph is required. It is, being the founding director of IIIT Bhagalpur, he has done many things from scratch, of which some notable matters are: initiation of BTech program in Maths and Computing, different MTech programs, formulation of IPR and research and consultancy, incubation consultancy policies, signed MOUs with 8 different organizations, established a Center of Excellence in AI and Data Science, started PhD program in all departments. So with this, other things are also here, but with a paucity of time, I am not in a position to communicate everything to you. But it's a matter of great honor and joy for us. We all are very honored, sir, with you, with your presence. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, department. I request sir to please address the audience.
Good afternoon. It is a matter of great pleasure that the Department of Humanities and Social Science is organizing an academic talk paid tribute to one of the best known professor of the department, Dr. Sujit Mohan Chanda, served as the professor and English professor of English in the institute since its inception since 1960. As I came to know from the head, he was popular among the humanities and engineering students. Today is a speaker, Dr. Suman Jana, a well-known academician. He will speak on the topic some glimpses of history, forgotten history, the politics of syllabus making. The topic seems to be very interesting. On Prime Ministers also celebrated this achievement of the less known heroes of own freedom struggle. So, hope all of you will have an initiative sessions today, and in this occasion, I congratulate and thanks to head SSS Damodar and the all department faculty members, students. At least you remember your senior professors. Those since inception, he was contributed to this institute. So, and in this occasion, a special guest, Dr. Rama Kundu, and she is among us. So my sincere thanks, madam. So you came here, and at this, it is your professor or something you contribute to that professors. So it is a nice, there is a tradition to celebrate in the memory of this type of the giant personality, and there's so many professors retired, and I think in my 6 months journey of NIT Durgapur, so this is the first time I'm here to tribute any faculty, those who are retired, and since his absence, he was this issue. So, which is a nice thing, and my thanks to all faculty heads, students, research scholars. It's the forgotten history. So government of India also given the emphasis on this type of the occurrence. Institute has already 2-3 months back in the memory of the heroes. Those who are not remembering, but you should remember at time of the independence, who was that heroes on that time. So उनकी कहानी हम लोग को जानना चाहिए. और in the NCERT books generally it is missed that one, but now the government is giving the more emphasis on how to introduce that memory to the NCERT books, and you should know the history कि उस समय क्या था. जो wrong informations, wrong history हम करते थे, now it is going to corrections. So अभी हमारे बीच among us experts हैं, उनकी हम बात सुने. हम इंग्लिश के एक्सपर्ट नहीं हैं, हम लोग इतिहास डेवलप करते हैं, इंग्लिश को लोग थे तो, लेकिन इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट है, इंग्लिश के प्रोफेसर्स रहे हैं, इंग्लिश के एक्सपर्ट्स आए हुए हैं, उनकी बात हम सुने और रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स जो हैं यहाँ पर और इनको एक इन्फॉर्मेशन दे दें कि आपका एरिया जो 3 दिन से बाकी था, आपका सभी एरिया 2023 से मार्च में पेमेंट होगा.
Thank you, sir, for your words of encouragement and your enlightening observations. We will utilize this occasion to release the PhD dissertation of late Professor Chanda in a book form. The book is titled George Orwell, The Lonely Watchman in a Gathering Darkness, and it has been published by Radiance. We must let you know that Dr. Rama Kundu, a student and PhD scholar of Dr. Chanda, and herself an eminent academic, took the initiative of publishing the book, while great impetus was put in by the children and the grandchildren of Dr. Chanda, so that this book, an excellent academic asset, could see the light of the day. I request our Honorable Director, sir, to formally release the book and make it accessible to the readers at large. It is in fact an inspiration to watch the toils of your PhD years to be published in the form of a book. We now request Dr. Rama Kundu, Eminent Academic and retired Professor of English from the University of Gurdwan, to enlighten us with her observations on the book.
Honorable Director, sir, respected colleagues, friends, and dear students, and last but not least, my dear Arvind, who also was a student of mine some time ago, some years ago.
Some 25.
Now, আপনাদের অনুমতি নিয়ে আজকে যেহেতু ভাষা দিবস, আমি অমর একুশের সেই ভাষা শহীদদের প্রণাম জানাই এবং এটা তো বাংলাতেই আমরা সকলে তাদের স্মৃতির উদ্দেশ্যে প্রদান করি। Now, let us come back to our job. I think it is a privilege and honor to be here today on this auspicious occasion and to speak a few words, sharing ideas and feelings with reference to Professor Sujit Mohan Chanda and his book on Georgia. Now, in our tradition, there are three kinds of dates: Reem, Pitreem, Matreem, Guru Reem. And Guru, that is teacher, is also a parent. That is, he is your father, and in case of teachers like me, she is your mother. So it is a kind of combined role. Actually, these dates can never repeat, right? Or never be fully repeat. One can only humbly try to do some part of it. One of the very respected teachers whom Dr Chanda knows, he did his PhD with him, Arvind knows, Professor Mohit Kumar Ray, he used to cite this often, that is Vangsho Divido. Our teachers have two kinds of families. One is, of course, his biological family. The other is the community of his students. And this other family is, of course, much more sprawling and much more, what should I say, continuing. Student, his or her student, then his or her student, students, grad students. So in this way, this Vangsho goes on and our never ends, our date never ends. So bringing out this humble way, bringing out this book by Professor Chanda is a humble way to pay only a small part of our great debt to the author, who had been our most respected and beloved teachers. What he was with us, with many of us, I shall just read out one single passage. I had mentioned this last year. Then this book was yet in the press. It was forthcoming. In the introduction of this book, I mentioned our beloved sir. I take this opportunity, this is my book, can you read it? I take this opportunity to pay my humble tribute to late Professor Sujit Mohan Chanda, my teacher in the university and my research guide, and eminent Orwell scholar himself, who inspired and instilled in some of his tutors at least the values of dissent and freedom, of truth and dignity. Through his enthralling classroom lectures during the late 60s on dystopian fiction. Thank you, sir, for those memorable vernal showers over that fair sit time of your fortunate students. Now, I shall just as requested by this dear girl here, I assume she is our student. I shall just very briefly speak you about the genesis of the book because most of us know it. Sir had written this manuscript, but during his lifetime it was not published. It could not be somehow for various reasons, which is there, just stated there in the introduction of this book. Now, last year we had the centenary celebration, and during that event we had also thought of this idea of bringing out this unpublished book. And it was our target to do it this year because this is Shatabarsha Purti. From next year it will be another kind of seminar. So we decided to publish this unpublished manuscript for the young readers of today. But for whom? And what to be located this? You know, Aurobindo had written one in a dedication of his book, Mahua. Shudhayona Kavi Kun Gan, Kahari Puriyachino Dance, Pathir Dhular Pore, Puriyachi Tari Pare, Je Kahare Dite Pari Mani. This manuscript had been lying under the dust of oblivion. Now, our task was to find it out, wipe off the dust, and then do it for, make it ready for the press. Apparently, it seems to be very easy, but it was not that easy or smooth. It seemed rather challenging. Firstly, locating the text. Locating the text, here Sir's family, entire family, his son, daughter, granddaughters, all came out and joined the search, and finally it was found out. You may be surprised to know, at the instruction of Sir's youngest granddaughter, who was at the time abroad, she requested the family to send pictures of all the shelves, all the bookshelves in the room, and then she located the text. Well, so text was located. That was it all interesting. But then the second hurdle, in those days, when Sir wrote this manuscript, it was not electronic typing or computer typing. It was the very thin page on which carbon copies were made by manual typewriter, manual machine. So, the copy that we found out at last, after all this search, was deep sorrow, already too brittle to be loaded. It was just crumbling. Then it was sent from Delhi by Sir's son to Kolkata. There, the eldest granddaughter, Sir, who is unfortunately could not be there today, took the photos of one by one of every text, of 300 plus manuscripts. Now the next page. Her name is mentioned in the introduction, Paula Shen. She sent a copy to me. I will have a photocopy of this photocopy. And also together with a younger sister with some soft copies of some of the chapters. They sent these to me for correction, leaving the rest of the work to me. They kindly entrusted me with the job of making this copy. It was a bit daunting, no. And with Sir's blessing and what we do, the hurdles were eventually overcome and the book came out in time. Now we offered the book for the valued readers. I don't know how to thank everyone who joined in this work. It was a common joint venture, I may say. And when our sir had been reading this manuscript, at that time there was very little Orwell scholarship. Orwell had just died some years ago, and today there is little other than available. But today, all relevance is an established fact. As just one of your colleagues were pointing out a few minutes ago. It is an established fact, and as I have tried to show this in the epilogue of this book, to select excerpts from intellectual stalwarts across the decades since Arund's death. I am indebted so much to everybody who have helped us in this work. I am indebted to this institute, to this ambition of yours. And so I gratefully leave the book with you and take my leave. Thank you very much.
Valuable experience. Shri Dr. Mukherjee, a former student of Dr. Chanda, has sent a message commemorating the occasion. We would like to share this message with you. We request Dr. Devashish Chakraborty, faculty member of the department, to read out the message to the audience. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dhingra. I read this message on behalf of Mr. Tapan Kumar Mukherjee. It is an honor and privilege to be invited to attend the annual Professor S.M. Chanda Endowment Lecture to be held at NIT Durgapur Assembly Hall on 21st February 2024. I am grateful to Dr. Aurobindo, Professor and Head of Humanities and Social Sciences Department for extending the invitation to a non-academic person like me. The purpose of setting up such an endowment lecture is to perpetuate the memory of our revered teacher and to commemorate the life and achievement of an eminent person who left behind a rich intellectual legacy for prosperity and successive generations of students to cherish. As T.S. Eliot observed in his celebrated essay in The Sacred Wood, Tradition and the Individual Talent, it is fitting that we should pay homage from time to time and initiate periodical review and intermittent reassessment of our literary figures of the past. A somewhat similar claim might be made for our respected teacher when we have gathered to commemorate his life and achievement by instituting an annual endowment lecture in his memory. He was an eminently successful teacher. After short stints at City College Calcutta and Hooghly Mohsin College, he joined IIT Kharagpur way back in 1950 when it was founded by Jawaharlal Nehru. After 10 years there, he came to erstwhile REC, now NIT Durgapur, as Professor of Humanities and was here for the rest of his professional career. He was noted for his enormous intellectual energy, high spirit and zeal for academic pursuit. He always kept himself abreast of the latest studies and research in his field. He could inculcate new ideas and instill the spirit of enthusiasm and curiosity into the minds of his students so that they were sufficiently stimulated to further delve deeply into the subject under scrutiny. He was meticulously down to the smallest detail. He was an upright and outspoken man and could call a spade a spade. It was a fascinating experience to attend his class lectures on Saturdays, week after week at Bardon University, with which he was associated as part-time lecturer since its inception in Uttar Kotak Rajbati in 1960. Students were simply kept spellbound and enthralled by his lecture. I used to keep up correspondence with him long after my halcyon student days in the university. The letters are a model of plain, simple and elegant English for me, and this is the reason why I have preserved them as an example of good English to follow and an ideal writing style to emulate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have received one more message from Dr. Kamala Banerjee, who was a colleague of Dr. Chanda for quite some time. We will now play the message on the screen.
A great privilege to be invited by the Department of Humanities to address Dr. Professor S.M. Chanda Memorial Lecture. My first meeting with Dr. Chanda took place across the interview table in the office of the Director, Technical Education at SPM East Kolkata. The other persons who were there were Dr. Sujit Ghosh, Dr. Vinayak from IIT Durgapur, and English-educated David Sen from Kolkata University. It is a matter of great satisfaction for me to have come to contact with scholars, however short or brief the meeting might have been. It must be made known to you all that Dr. Sujit Ghosh is a great scholar and his essay on mysticism features in Encyclopedia Britannica. RC or NIT looms large on the canvas of my mind. During my interview, the experts posed a barrage of questions. Atmosphere of the room was serious and businesslike until Dr. Chanda raised the question. He said, "The last question, who will be more happy if you get the job, you or your husband?" And almost impromptu I replied, "We shall share the joy." This answer was well received by the expert. Dr. Chanda took over from the other experts and said, "The timings in our department is from 7 to 11 and from 1 to 4, and I shall abide by it." I joined REC-NIT in January 1980. The stream of my consciousness takes me backward in time. Professor Dr Chanda, who was the director of IIT Durgapur, was way back in the 80s, stressed upon in very clear terms the importance of good writing and good speaking. He told me, "Teach your students to master typewriting, essay writing, and good reports as well." Mind you, laptops were not involved then. Dr. Chanda was instrumental in introducing technical report writing procedures for use of the college. Both our principal D.M. Sen and Dr. Chanda strongly advocated the importance of this paper. After Dr. Chanda's retirement in January 1985, I took up the teaching of technical report writing. Dr. Chanda procured a copy of the book for technical writing by Nix and Walter for the college library. In my opinion, this was the best reference book on the subject till date. The nuances of technical writing have to be understood by the students. Technical writing is about scientific subjects and various technical matters associated with the sciences. It demands special command over scientific and technical vocabulary, use of capital aids, and use of conventional report. Principal D.M. said, in many academic meetings, stressed upon the urgent need of engineers and scientists to gain knowledge on the intricacies of technical writing. I was asked to offer a new paper, Great Literature, in the non-departmental section. I framed the syllabus. Dr. Chanda was the expert. He noted positively as I read out the list on my paper. And at the end he said, "These include the ESLA's composition of the wasteland." Dr. Chanda had total control over language. He never really mixed up one with the other. When he spoke in English, it was the choicest, the shortest, and the simple words which found the place. But he never used Bengali Dr. Chanda's choice of words was marvelous. I remember how intelligently he selected the textbooks for the junior students. We taught 20,000 leagues under the sea, Great New World by Aldous Huxley, To Serve with Love by E.R. Beckett, and George Orwell's Animal Farm, 1984, etc. He asserted many times that engineers are not complete until they read great literature. As I think of him today, I think sorry not to have been detached with him for 2 more years. Even today, though I am away, like 2,600 kilometers from Durgapur, such is Dr. Chanda's net force that as I speak the words, believe me when I tell you, I can see the towering personality walking down the corridor or climbing down the stairs. His image is inseparably linked with the Department of Humanities, and after death, he possesses that force which enables him to conquer the hearts of those who came in touch with him.
Sharing her experiences of working with Dr. Chanda. We are extremely happy that Srimati Sulekha Sen, daughter of Dr. Chanda, is present in the audience. We request her to come to the dais and share her remembrances of her late father.
Good afternoon, everybody. I don't know how many of you have seen a film called Morutitto Hinglaj. It was about going on a pilgrimage. Today I faced something like that while coming here. I left my husband who had a stroke with great difficulty, but on the way I faced the greatest difficulties where the driver seemed to be under high pressure and was unable to drive at all. I didn't think I could reach here, but with your good wishes and my father's blessings, I did. I had known my father, Sujit Mohan Chanda, as a father. I basked in his affection. But my father's students, they are the true children in spirit, because they had a measure of the kind of man he really was and his erudition. When he passed away, a gentleman, a retired chemistry professor of Jatindranath University rang me up to tell me that in his ISC class, my father had taught Rising of the Moon, and he still remembered the play with all its details. It was etched in his memory. I wondered, a science student 50 years later, after being taught a play, remembers it, how much impact it had made. Such was my father's ability. Though he never really taught me in that sense, but I have always come to hear from other students, mainly students. It was always the students. So I told Ramadi, who was an ex-student of my father, and Professor Modok, and the others, I did not know them well before, but Professor Modok had met my father. They have imbibed the spirit that was in my father. He loved to teach, he loved English, and he loved his students. The day he passed away, I had gone to the nursing home and he had already passed away. I did not realize. His eyes were open. And I kept on thinking he was still there. I was shaking him because there was so much affection in his eyes. It was a living man, not someone who was there no more. Much later I realized that when people talk of a teacher loves his students, love is something my father experienced absolutely genuinely. We always talked about his students, we knew about their, whatever merits, demerits, their faults and foibles, we knew everything about them. I am very honored that today I have been able to be present here to honor on this event, which is to honor his memory. And I want to thank the NIT authorities, also Professor Rama Kundu, and all of you here who have taken time off your schedule to come to attend a memorial lecture for a person you did not know, you did not meet. But I am sure your lives will be touched because you have this spark of interest in you. I am sure God will bless you and he, my father too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sen. Before we present the speaker of the day, our chief guest, we request Dr. Suman Jana, faculty member of the department, to introduce him to the audience.
Thank you, Titiksha, for giving me the opportunity. We are glad to have with us Dr. Suman Jana as the distinguished speaker. Dr. Jana had his schooling from St. Xavier's School in 1973, graduation from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata in 1977, MA in English Literature from the University of Arvind in 1979. He was a research associate in American Studies and Research Center, Hyderabad during 1918 to 81. Dr. Jana earned his PhD degree from the University of Arvind. He taught at different educational institutes and has always been a popular teacher among the students. He published 13 research papers in various journals and edited volumes till 1999. It was around this time that he felt the fallacy of self-promotion involved in the act of publishing. Hence, he started devoting his entire time to the classroom, in the process teaching the learners how to rise from the mire of poverty and illiteracy. His purpose was to inculcate in the learners a firm belief in the idea that nobody is weaker in intellect than anybody else. He believes that successful dismantling of colonization of education can go a long way in universalizing education. Now, I request Dr. Jana to come to the dais and address the audience. The stage is yours.
Can I sit down? You see, ladies and gentlemen, last February I have had 2 strokes. So I can walk 2 miles at a stretch. I can go by scooter 20 miles at a stretch. But it might be a little discomfortable for me to stand, in one place for 1 full hour. So with your kind permission, if you allow me, I'll use the chair.
Yes.
My most respected teacher, Professor Emeritus Dr. Rama Kundu, who is in top of the list right now, Dr. Modo, Rini. I have had the good fortune to chat with her over WhatsApp, but never did I get the opportunity to see her, so it's God's design that I could see a kind of 80% photocopy of SMC's face drafted. I invoke the blessings and the spirit of Professor Chanda, which I believe is always with me. Not only to invoke knowledge Saraswati or my spiritual master. But as Madam Kundu suggested, that I believe more in Vidya Vangsho than in biological Vangsho. And when I teach, when I speak, I always felt that the long tradition of great teachers who were the teachers of my teachers and my teachers are all unconsciously, their spirits are speaking through me. And I firmly believe in this. And I'm sure my dear, dear, dear SMC, Sujit Mohan Chanda, he will see me through this afternoon. You see, this is a department of humanities. So I deliberately did not wish to restrict myself to poetry or novel or any literature study, because that would, automatically alienate you from the situation. You would have, under decency and compulsion, would have listened to me or may not have listened to me, but would have at least biologically sat here. But I have chosen a subject on which I have been speaking over the last 5-6 years. A subject which is in our blood. And today is the Matri-Bhasha Divas. I am not ashamed to speak in English because I have learned, as a Bengali, I have learned English to pay it back to the British in English. Because if I would have tried to pay it back to them, who had exploited the blood and the spirit of my forefathers day in and day out for centuries, they would not have understood my Bangla. But once I called, you cheat, you so on and so forth, and etc., 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 and I am capable of using 30th languages in English, not in Bangla, interestingly. Courtesy, my English medium education, of which I am not responsible. So I have chosen to speak on the, am I hard? Am I audible? Okay. The forgotten heroes of Indian history. I'll just read out my introductory comments and then I'll look through my notes and I'll talk. It's not that I'm going to read out the paper. And I know that this is not an academic exercise. I'm here to share certain stories that I even did not know. And I'm more or less very sure that apart from Ramadi, I have no idea about Vini, other than she is a very loving and kind person. I have no other idea about her. But most of you may not have even heard of what I am going to tell you. And this is the politics of syllabus making, that I will only, if I am in power, I will only induct into school and college textbooks a selective narrative, sometimes a distorted narrative, so that I can stay on in power. And fortunately or unfortunately, but this is the only truth available, that all post-1947 that post, yes, my dear girls, You are even younger than my daughters. So it's my urgent plea, lend me your ears. An old man who will be 68 in 3-4 months. He has come to share his joy. The most unfortunate part of mainstream Indian history, which we now call the Nehruvian liberal left history, is that there was no other way out. From 1947 onwards, our Indian historians, of all our Indian historians, of major academic ranking, were taught in Cambridge and Oxford. And they love to call them liberal, and they love to call them leftist. Why they are leftist, I do not know. If at all they are leftist, I also don't know. I am neither an East nor an West, nor a West. So please do not confuse me with anything to do with the present dispensation in the center. I am a totally political person. I have never been into any political party in my life because it is against my dignity to pawn my intelligence to any dispensation. I am a free soul, and I will remain a free soul even after I leave this body. I do not believe in this body, the body paradigm. So I begin, and I am sure Ramadi will offer me her graces unasked for, so I am not asking. In the mainstream narrative, the history of India's freedom struggle is almost exclusively about non-violent opposition to British colonial rule led by the Indian National Congress. The more specifically by Mahatma Gandhi, and possibly the most striking aspect of this narrative, central narrative, is that it is not only taught in our schools and repeated in official documentaries, but also taken for granted by the rest of the world. However, India's freedom struggle was a much more complex affair, which included generations of sustained armed resistance. In fact, the non-violent stream of India's freedom movement cannot be meaningfully understood without a thorough knowledge of India's armed struggle. Of course, most people are aware that the British colonial conquest between 1757 and 1857 faced military opposition from the nobility and traditional social groups of the time, like the Marathas, the Sikhs, the Paikas, and the Sannyasis. You remember the Sannyasi rebellion, for which Bankim Chandra's Anandamot was such a great and grand success because it was in our race movement. The central figures of resistance were Chhatrapati Shivaji, Guru Gobind Singh, and Maharana Pratap. In between came Birsa Munda in Jharkhand and Tikendrajit Singh in Manipur. in the early 1890s. But they did not pose any serious threat to the British administration. The revolutionaries are an organized network, apparently loose, of whom some of whom I am going to speak today, because you cannot give a 100 lecture course in one lecture. So I'll just introduce you to the main figures and the foundations, and some interesting episodes, some dramatic ones too, so that you will enjoy. The revolutionaries were also influenced by Western ideas and contemporary world events. Italian nationalism, all of you have heard of Giuseppe Mazzini, socialism, even Marxism, and so on and so forth. The names of many of the key leaders of the revolutionary struggle, such as Vinayak, Savarkar, Rashbihari Bose, Bagha Jyotin, Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, and Master Sujjo Sen, are still widely remembered. But in the official narrative, their stories are almost always presented as acts of individual heroism. There was a hero, there was a hero, there was a hero. Who sacrificed their life? Khudiram, Prabhupada Chakti, Master Da, and the Balasore gun battle, and so on, and Bhajatin, and so on and so forth. As if these were random. This is the politics. This is the politics. They were not random. Well, I'll tell you about their story. We'll share about their story. They are remembered today as individual, often erratic heroes, often self-destructive ones, and not as a part of a wider movement with a highly complex and interconnected network. One is left with the impression that their activities neither had any overarching strategy nor any impact on the overall struggle for independence. The reality is that the Indian armed struggle was not a sporadic small-scale movement of naive individual heroism, but that one that involved a large number of extraordinary young men and women who were connected in multiple ways to each other. Their story is one of great sacrifice, love for the motherland, of a swashbuckling adventure, incredible bravery, and unpredictable twists of fate. The purpose of my speech here is to force into you, to inject into you the idea that the central Nehruvian narrative needs to be corrected. I'm not criticizing Gandhi. He was a great man. If anybody says he was not a great man, he's a madman. I'm not a madman. But the point is that Gandhi's non-violent movement, resistance, could never have had a good appraisal, a total appraisal, minus those who have been deliberately left out of our narratives. So I begin with the first shot. What happened? The first shot, the gunshot. So let's begin with action. The famines of 1877 in Maharashtra, man-made famines. it was not only 1942, 43, etc. that we had a man-made famine. Because those were in our history books, we know that it was man-made famine. They were man-made famines, but this one too was a man-made famine. In 1877, this deprived the Marathas, the poor villagers, even the small landholders, of everything including food, their health, their lives, somebody's children, somebody's parents, somebody's husbands, somebody or the other had lost a member in the famine ranging between 1877 and 1878. People felt that their backs were on the walls and they were just in a position as if that either we die or we do something. To add insult to injury, there was the great epidemic of plague in 1879 in Maharashtra. And the British government passed the first Epidemic Disease Act in 1897. In 1897. And the plague commissioner was Walter Rand. Whether he was a human being or a beast, I do not know. But he appeared to be a human being. And he had enormous powers, which were given to him by this Epidemic Diseases Act 1897. And he exercised his powers by forcing, the British troops into households which were not struck by epidemics, and temperatures were taken of women, and if they were safe, they were raped. And if they were unsafe, they were forcefully carried to rescue homes, where they were not rescued but led to death. No food, no medicine, no ayah, no nurse, no volunteers were allowed. So they were just dragged from their home to die in segregation. 2 young boys, the famous Chapekar brothers, Bal Krishna Chapekar, Damodar Hori Chapekar, and their youngest brother Vasudev Chapekar. If you get interest, Google them, and now you'll get a lot of info. But even 6 years ago, Google was not so updated about our forgotten heroes. So, on April 2, 1897, Sir William Rand had gone to attend the 60th anniversary of the emperorship of Queen Victoria. Because you know that she came to the throne in 1837. And the Chapekar brothers knew that he would go there. So they were in hiding under a banyan tree. And they saw what kind of carriage was going by. And they identified Rand. Unfortunately, there was another carriage of the same kind, the same external dressing. that took another officer, his aide-de-camp, Lieutenant Charles Ayerst, Ayerst. And then after they were waiting at 8:30 in the night, when the first carriage came out, Balakrishna was waiting in the darkness. And as soon as the carriage came, Balakrishna jumped into the carriage and threw a bomb. Immediately it exploded, but it was realized within seconds that the target was lost. It was Lieutenant Ayerst. And then the elder brother, Damodar, he was unfazed. He climbed up the banyan, waited for 15-20 minutes so that the fracas is hushed up. And then he saw the main culprit coming out, Warder ran. And he straightway ran, jumped into the carriage. And that was the first shot. He opened the pistol and shot him. Unfortunately, Rand did not die on the spot as Ayers did. But Rand died, he had to die 7 days later in Pune hospital. That was the day, those were days when we called them Pune, the Pune hospital. That was the first shot. But that was not the beginning of the network, the concerted network. That was an isolated episode. But the concerted network started with two big pillars. Sri Aurobindo, who we are all given to understand through our schoolings, our official education, our documentaries, that he was one of the greatest mystics of India, that he lived in Pondicherry and all, that he was a saint. There are lives of Sri Aurobindo. A very famous book written by H.W.S. And the first life begins in 1872 on 15th August when he was born, and it ends with 1910 when he flew away from Bengal in order to escape capture by the draconian British police. He fled to Jatindranath, which was a French enclave, and there also he found a lot of British moles. So he shifted over to Pondicherry, a larger, very large French enclave, under a fake name of some Tikait Dogra. Otherwise he wouldn't have got the ticket. Now what happened in between? The young Aurobindo. Very strangely enough, Aurobindo Ghosh was born to a very loyal British imitator, a very famous civil surgeon, Krishnodhan Ghosh, and his wife Sarvini. Krishnodhan had 5 children. The first, Manmohan Ghosh, the second, Vinayak Ghosh, the third, do you know Aurobindo's name, with which he was Christian? None of us. Aurobindo Ghosh, a British middle name, because that would promote the civil surgeon. who is a bootlicker. And then Aurobindo's mother, Swarnalata, was repulsed with the obsessive, crawling, creeping, bootlicking habits of her husband, and she fell in deep depression. And even then, they had a female child, Sarojini. And then the last one, who is very well known today, Jatindranath Ghosh. Do you know his name? His name was not Jatindranath Ghosh, but his name was Emmanuel Matthew Ghosh. At the age of 5, this civil surgeon, the pro-British civil surgeon, he decided that no, my children are not even going to speak Bangla inside their homes. And lest they learn Bangla, he packed up a 5-year-old Aurobindo, right, a 7-year-old Vinayak, and an 8.5-year-old Mohan Ghosh to Loretta Convent, Darjeeling, a school run by Irish nuns. A school run by Irish nuns. 2 years later, when Aurobindo was just 7, which is 1882, he and his elder brothers were taken to England and left under the care of Reverend John Drivet and his wife Margaret, with the strictest instruction that my children under your care should never have access to anybody in the Indian community, should never have access to any of the Indian languages, because they need to know English. They need to know the classics. By classics he did not mean, of course, Sanskrit, but Greek and Latin. And because my sons would serve the Indian civil service. However, it was found out sooner or later that Mohan and Vinayak were too intelligent to pass their exams. But Aurobindo was a genius. He always stood first in all his classes in school. Always, mind you, being Indian, it was not very easy to stand first in school. Because it was a general custom that however brilliant you are always made second, number 2. And that is what happened with Savarkar in Great Britain. I will come to that later. But first Aurobindo, the founding pillar of Indian armed struggle. So then Aurobindo was taken to Cambridge after he finished his schooling. After he finished in schooling, and in October 1890, when he was 15 years, he sat for the scholarship examination at King's College. Do you think I should round up? People are getting...
No, the scholars are there.
It's alright. Are you alright? Are you comfortable with the story, not the history? It's neither my story nor his story, nor anybody's story, but just a gallery of facts sorted together. I began time, I know I'll end after 1 hour. So I'm just 20 minutes, 25. So another 35 to 40 minutes I'll put a little bit of pressure, but it is a story. Listening to stories are never very. non-entertaining. So in 1890, Aurobindo sat, in 1889, sorry, 75 to 80, 22 years, 24 years. Aurobindo sat for the King's College Scholarship Examination from 10 to 6:30. He was rigorously made to translate English into Latin, into Greek, and then back from Greek into Latin, and so on and so forth. He had to answer hundreds of questions on grammar, and then finally from 4 to 6:30, he had to write an essay, and he stood first. In 1892, he stood first in the Cambridge Tripos, but it was the law that after completion of Tripos, you have to do a 6-month training course, an academic training course, and then you have to write your dissertation paper and then get your BA degree. But then Aurobindo in the meantime had managed to clear the preliminary examinations for the ICS. So he had to move to London. And in 1892, he moved to London without taking his BA degree. But that doesn't take away the credit of his coming first in the scholarship examination in King's College, Cambridge. Then in 1982, October, in June, he shifted from Cambridge to London. In October, very strangely enough, on 2nd October, 1892, he was informed that he would have to take a writing test which was mandatory for anybody to sit for the main ICS examinations. You know, a writing test in those days is like writing a scooty in Western world today, or at most a car. So each and every aspirant of class, power, etc., they knew, and Orwell knew how to ride a horse. He could ride horses flamboyantly, but he simply suddenly changed his mind. What made him change his mind? Between 1891 and 92, while he was preparing for his ICS prelims, he had to read Indian culture, the British Penal Code, the Hindu and Muslim acts, marriage acts, and so on and so forth, and particularly the penal codes. And so he suddenly became interested in India. And he had no access to Indian languages, but when he came over to London, he immediately hunted for the Indian boys who were being educated in London. And he started meeting them and learned a little bit of Bangla here, a spattering of Hindi there, a spattering of Marathi there, and so on and so forth. And his passion for the nation, the realization that we are under the boots of the British, this dawned in his mind. And he simply said, nothing doing, refused. And he was barred for his audacity. He was barred for a lifetime from appearing ever in the ICS examination. He was not very sure by the end of October 1892 what he's going to do. But his father was so shocked that he had a massive heart attack in October 1892 that his last ray of hope, Aurobindo Ghosh, had dropped his name Ghosh through an affidavit in the Chancellor's Court in London, and that he refused to take the examinations. As the the divine design would have it, he suddenly met Maharaja Savaji Rao Gaikwad, who was visiting the Maharaja of Gaikwad, who was visiting London in 1892. And Gaikwad, Aurobindo was immediately a kind of hushed celebrity among, supporters of, non-supporters, not resistors, because resistance was not that easy in the late 1890s or in the early 1890s. So at least the non-supporters of the British Empire. So he was a celebrity. Somehow Gaikwad came to know his name. He had a meeting with Aurobindo, and in 15 minutes he said that I am going to give you 200 rupees per month, and you have to come as a civil servant and work in my estate, the Gaikwad estate, the Maharaja of Gaikwad. It's very interesting. We always calculate money. Maybe none of you know, but Didi surely knows and Nidhi surely knows that when money is evaluated, it was always in terms of the price of gold.
How should I know that?
You should know because you are my age or even senior to me. Anyway, at least you know now. Money, that was the standard of the value of money, the gold standard. In 1892, when Aurobindo Ghosh joined as a civil servant with a salary of rupees 200 a month, and the gold price being 18.96, 18 rupees and 96 paisa. अपनी आराम से बोलो अच्छा it's all right. I will not carry on. Who am I? It is Professor Chanda, spiritual guru, who will lead me through the spirit of my teachers and my spiritual master. Who am I? I do not believe in this I, not the biological I. I am a Advaitavadi and I am a practitioner without any kind of narrow chauvinism. And I know that Advaita is not a religion, but a way of life. It is a philosophy. And I am not ashamed to subscribe to any philosophy. So that is for me. So I'll carry on. His salary compared to today's price of gold, 18 টাকা 96 পয়সা. All of you except our Piero sir understand Bangla? Okay. Oh, very good. Wonderful. So it will be a bilingual exercise. Not a lot, but sometimes. 18 টাকা 96 পয়সা. Today it is 62,246. Compared to today's valuation, Aurobindo's salary was 6,30,000 rupees per month. And after 9 long years, when he became the principal of Baroda College, which is now Maharaja Sayaji Rao University. And if you go to the university, you'll be charmed to find that in the main administrative building, the room where Aurobindo used to sit is still preserved as it was. It is still there, still preserved as it was. A small room. but very airy. And interestingly, Aurobindo never locked his doors, so the doors are always open even at night. And with so much money, he always left his doors open in his quarters. And when his colleagues would say that, why do you do this? He would say, it's not my money. He who has given me will take care of it. And then someday, when that famous, just a minute, revolutionary, yes, Jatindranath, he was being trained, he was being given military training under the Gaikwad army, just as a ruse, as a cover-up, to be trained militarily and sent back to Uruchivan Somiti. He said, well, it's none of your business. It's neither my money nor the money of the chor. And even if he steals, I firmly believe that it is also part of the divine design. And if it is so, then maybe he needs it more than me. Can you imagine how large-hearted he was and how petty, low-key, greedy, insecure we are? The day I learned, I took my purse and threw it in a pocket. I don't have a purse, you can check. And I never have a purse. I put some money inside, do not count it. And I never had a purse. And when I retired, I got a fabulous amount of 37 lakh rupees, which I never imagined, which I had never thought of. So what did I do with that? My younger daughter was already married. So under inspiration of this Aurobindo, I gave 10 lakhs to my younger daughter that you are not yet married, so you take it. And her, family gold and all, she would automatically inherit. And I gave the rest of the entire money for the service of the poor. And I am not a poor man for that. I am much less greedy than the multiple billionaires in India. And therefore I feel I am one of the richest persons. I'm not worried at all. But this was Aurobindo. Now, as he came over to pursue the civil services, his main duty was to, take track of the revenue and administration day to day. So what did he do? He didn't like doing this. He had enormous free time when he started reading the classical Indian epics, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and so on and so forth. And he had a phenomenal memory, like Swami Vivekananda. Once read, is read forever. So he was not like Suman Jana, who declares a note sheet. The rest he forget. So he read enormously. And he caught the heart, the core of Indianism, the spirit of the soil in him. And he decided that I'll liberate my soil and restore the spirit of the nation, forcefully disrupted and disparaged by the Brits who are not us. So he knew, he then started planning. He knew that sporadic violence would not help. Sporadic violence would not help. He knew it. Individual acts of heroism would not help. Just making bombs and throwing bombs would not help. Killing a few officials would not help. What was more required was laying down the foundation, the theoretical foundation of the revolutionary struggle in India. But prior to that, he was extremely brilliant. He could see, he was a visionary much before he became a mystic. He could see that if the Indians, which since the 12th century have a history of akhadas, akhadas, who fought bravely against the Turkic conquest in the Middle Ages. They were quasi-religious and quasi-military organizations. If these akhadas, which still last as wrestling clubs, if they could be used as a ruse, as a cover-up, as a facade, a veneer, under which the youth of India could be gathered, trained, and supported into a firm belief in liberating their soil by whatever means possible, then it would be best to keep going. So he went to Calcutta in 1901. He was a big celebrity by then. An obscure civil servant of the Gaikwads had become a big celebrity by then. And he came to Kolkata and started negotiations with Sujit Mohan Chanda, who was the founder of the অনুশীলন Samiti. And Sujit Chandra Bose's closest friend and philosopher was Sister Nivedita, who was initiated by Swamiji. But Sujit Chandra, though not being initiated by Swamiji, was very close to Swamiji. And then Swami Vivekananda died in 1902, 4th July. Then after Swamiji's death, Nivedita went over to Baroda, where Aurobindo was the principal of Baroda College. And both he and Nivedita brought in, who brought in Jatindranath Chakrabarty, not Harinanath. This is not Jatindranath Mukhopadhyay Bhagajati. This is another person, Jatindranath Chakrabarty, another revolution. And Jatindranath, who he called Chatto, was inducted into the army of the Gaikwad, the Baroda army. The purpose, of course, that he was being trained for further action. And both of them, Nivedita and Aurobindo, chalked out the strategy in Baroda. And Nivedita went back to Kolkata and exploded by building up 113 nodes of ଅନୁশীলন Samiti throughout Bengal, from the farthest Kushtia, Chittagong, and Dhaka, and Kolkata, and even Purbo and Paschim Bardhaman, of which no places are left. Everywhere in Bengal, every other day, ଅନୁশীলন Samiti units were branching out, just sprouting like buds in May. And then the British took cognizance of that. And Aurobindo Ghosh, Aurobindo's younger brother, who was re-Christianed after his father died in 1892 on Aurobindo's refusal to be a Brit servant. His mother came back to Devghar, her ancestral place, her father's place, and was very well received by her rich brothers So she had no problem whatsoever. And her mother Christian Emmanuel Matthew into Aurobindo Ghosh. Aurobindo initiated Aurobindo Ghosh in 1903 to the Anushilon Samiti with the Gita in the right hand and the sword in the left hand before the altar of Mata Bhavani, an ancestral temple in Deoghar. And what was the oath? That until my last breath lasts, I will work for the ouster of the oppressors. Until my last breath lasts, I will work for the ouster of oppressors. Everybody in the original Samiti had taken this oath. And Bardin was another phenomenon. He was imbued with political leadership skills. He could draw like a magnet people coming from all sections of society and even a Bhadralok generation, which is an impossibility, because Bhadraloks are always very cowards. They are very insecure. They do not have a lot of money, so they have wives, they have children. But even the Bhadralok communities, the young people from Bhadralok communities were joining Aurobindo Ghosh. But Aurobindo became reckless. So reckless, so much so, that in 1906 Aurobindo had to leave his 500 rupee job. Imagine 18.72 crore rupees per annum in today's calculation. In order to warn his brother and keep him under check, he left his job as principal of Baroda College. He came over to Kolkata. He hired a small flat in 23 Scotland. You know where Scotland is? Glen is in Dunham. But do you know where Bongavashi College is? Many of you know. So if you know, Bongavashi College is 19 Scotland. So you understand where is 23 Scotland. The house still exists and I've seen it with my own eyes. But of course it has been kind of, swallowed up by, the promoters and builders, and no trace of Aurobindo's original flat. But there is a plaque. Here lived Sri Aurobindo. But here did not live Sri Aurobindo. Here lived Aurobindo Ghosh should have been the plaque. All these are, manipulated. Why do you utter Sri Aurobindo when he was not known as Sri Aurobindo? He was a freedom fighter. And in all study textbooks, you will see this very major part of Aurobindo left out, very tactfully left out. That Aurobindo was the main mind and Bardin the main hands behind the sprouting up of initial Samiti. Now what did Bardin do? Bardin also had the brains to realize that simply collecting people would not help. First, you need to know the chemistry of bomb making. So he sent another Jatindranath to Paris. And right at that time, by a stroke of fate, Savarkar sent, in 1902, Savarkar sent Pandurang Bapat, his aide, another famous revolutionary, from London in 1996. And this Jatindranath Das was a chemistry student. He had been rusticated from Presidency College because of slapping Professor Wilson and pulling Professor Morrison by his ears, because both of them used to deride the Hindu deities inside the classrooms. So he had been rusticated, and yet he had learned enough chemistry to pass the Sorbonne University entrance examination. It doesn't mean that if only you read chemistry in Presidency College, you will learn chemistry. Learning is an individual desire of love. Learning cannot be imparted by an institution. Well, we need institutions for whatever is inside, but no. But If you want to learn, you can always learn. Now, I was an English teacher. I was hard people. I knew nothing. Nothing of English, nothing of anything. But I learned my history out of love for my nation. That is the thing. And I wish that all of you start learning so many things outside your avenues of perception, which you are forced to perceive. Other than that, decondition yourself. All of us, these institutions, make us conditioned. By the way, I am afraid, all other than my teachers and my very august colleagues here, none of you know the term, maybe you are not acquainted with the term conditioning. Is anybody here? Is anybody here who knows what is conditioning? No. I am sure no. You do not know. You are not supposed to know, because the nation doesn't, the powers who frame our textbooks would condition you. And therefore, they would not tell you that you have been conditioned. Well, let us take the example of a hathi, an elephant. I have seen in North Bengal, in tea gardens, in Duars, huge mother elephants are tied by a very small rope to a kuti, a peg, while a newly born elephant, maybe 100 kilos or 120 kilos, he is chained by such a big, iron chain, fetters, to a large tree, to the trunk of a very large tree. And he billows and he trumpets and he shouts and he thumps and thumps and thumps. After 1-2 months, he is conditioned into believing that he cannot come out and be free. So then he is let loose and tied to a rope, to a very small rope, to a kuti by the side of his mother. This is called conditioning. All of us are conditioned. And at any cost, we have to come out of our conditioning. We have to live. We can't just not afford to live. Get rid of your conditions. Whatever in whichever form they may be. But be a spirit, not a body. Come on, Professor Chanda was a spirit, he was not a body. You should be very spirited. That's the thing. And that is why I am telling you all this. Anyway, to come back to what we were saying. ঠিক আছে আর 15 মিনিটের ছিল ইনফ্যাক্ট শেষ হবে না কোনোদিন তো we'll stop arbitrarily with Madanlal Dhingra, one of my favorites. Okay, so anyway, in then in the meantime, Ullascar Doctor, one of the most romantic revolutionaries in the entire history of mankind. You should read Ullascar Doctor. His biography is available in many good, shops in College Street. It's just 180 rupees. Ullascar Doctor. Read. So I will have no chance today, but I will stop with Madanlal Dhingra, and you will know how great these people are, where, and how we are made to forget these people. So anyway, Aurobindo tried to restrain, but in the meantime, Ullascar Doctor joined in the fray. And Ullascar was a self-taught chemist. And he had already discovered the art of making a bomb by picric acid, which was the main ingredient in the bomb. And when Bain challenged him, by that time, mind you, Jatindranath and Pandurang Bapa were studying chemistry in Sorbonne University. In order to that, with the ultimate purpose of not studying chemistry, but to learn the art of bomb making. And Paris was always the heaven for revolutionaries. Ullaskar found it. And when Baring challenged him, Ullaskar was a romantic kind of fellow. He cared nothing, and he sailed with the wind, or sometimes against the wind, whatever it is, the way you take the wind to be. So Ullaskar went and planted a bomb near Bali, B-A-L-L-Y, just after Howrah station. On a day when Sir Andrew Fraser, the Chief Justice of Calcutta, he was supposed to travel, the bomb exploded. It exploded so powerfully that 3 bogies were simply, shattered. They not only fell off the rails, but they were shattered. But most fortunately, for the Brit, the target, he was sitting in a special salon, which was at the back of the train. So Sir Andrew Fraser had escaped. But Baring and company realized that this fellow had more or less mastered the art. In the meantime, Pandurang Bapat and Jatindranath Das, they made friends with a Russian revolutionary who, in a fit of drunken large-heartedness, had gifted a major bomb-making manual to these two. And immediately they sent the bomb-making manual under the cover of Don Quixote, Adventures of Don Quixote. It was a harmless book. And he sent both of them sent the copy. One or two copies were sent to Savarkar, and 2 copies were sent to Baba Rao, who was Savarkar's elder brother, and to Baring. And then immediately, nobody could make out anything of it because it was in Russian. Savarkar took the opportunity of getting help in 1906 from his Obhinav Bharat friends, as this person, this great man, Aurobindo, built up the Umshilan Sumiti. Savarkar built up the Abhinav Bharat, which was primarily called the Mitra Mela. The Savarkar, through his international contacts, and Savarkar was planted in London, Savarkar got it translated. And the translated manuscript was copied into 20, mind you. In those days there were no photocopies. Imagine the dedication of our Indian students abroad, studying abroad and staying in London, neglecting their studies and copying out a book, a manual of 123 pages. And then, it was freely distributed, both in Kolkata, in Maharashtra, and copies were left with Savarkar in the India House. Tania. Copies were left with Savarkar in the India House, which was the hub of the Indian revolutionaries in London. Very interestingly, India House was established by a Sanskrit professor of Oxford, Shyamji Venkatesh, or in some books I have found Venkata Shyamji Varma, whatever it is, that is not it. He was an enormous scholar, Sanskrit scholar. And when he was just 28, he was invited by the Bowden professor of Oxford University of Sanskrit, Professor Monier Williams, to come and join as his fellow colleague as a direct professor recruit. The only instance in British India. He was an enigma. So Shyamji Verma went over to Oxford, and in 2 years' time, in 1893, he was promoted to the permanent membership of the Royal Asiatic Society, which had a salary even larger in amount compared to Sri Aurobindo. But he was not interested. He was not an academician proper. He left his studies, teaching, and he joined the law. He wanted to mint money. And obviously he became a barrister very easily. And after being a barrister, he once again started minting money. He came back to India and he started minting money, and he was obviously a very, very, very awfully successful barrister. The most successful barrister during Gandhi's time. And he minted money. And then, when he was 50, he was somehow under the scrutiny of the British monks. And it was rampant in the air that he would be arrested very soon. Because what was his fault? Because with a huge amount of money, he invested in Northgate, London, to buy a huge 3-story house, which was given for free education to Indian students wanting to study in London or in Britain. Well, mainly in London, and that was called the India House, and it was totally funded by Bikaji Bhai, Shyamji Bikaji. And in the India House, Savarkar ran amok with so many great soldiers of Mother India. I have only to name just 5 more minutes. I have only to name my personal favorite, Madanlal Dhingra. I'll just come to Madanlal Dhingra and then I'll stop. Okay? Because this would never stop. This would just never stop. And I wish it doesn't stop here. That if you love your country, whether you love a particular political dispensation or not, you should read those who love Dhingra. It's pointless, I only know my researches. I only know this. I am an expert in macro or microeconomics. I am an expert in the economic history of Mughal India. That's silly. As I said, this is absolutely silly. So Madanlal Dhingra was born in the same year, 1883, in Amritsar. His father was also a civil surgeon, and he was one of the most reputed eye surgeons in India. He was a sought after civil servant. His 2 elder brothers were famous doctors, then practicing in Amritsar. His 2 other brothers were already barristers, and one practicing in Amritsar and another in Lahore, undivided India. And they were also minting money. So he was the son of a lord, but he didn't care. He came, he could have easily afforded an individual private hired house, but he came and put up in India House, and where he made great friends with Savarkar. And Savarkar was the fulcrum, the Chalika Shakti, the central cog in the entire wheel of the wheel of Bharat, and the Indian activity, revolutionary activity. There were 2 Savarkars once again. The Savarkar who wrote a Muchilekha to the British government and was released from jail and came back to embrace mysticism and Hindutva. That is one Savarkar. That is when he was 37. But prior to that, he is one of the one of the fiercest tigers Mother India has ever produced. Now we only know one part of the story, and therefore some of us condemn, some of us eulogize. That's not the point. The point is, the whole story is, the earlier Savarkar was the real hero, not the later one. The earlier Savarkar laid the foundations, the theoretical foundations of the Indian Revolution by writing his very famous book, The First War of Indian Independence, commemorating what the Brits called Sepoy Mutiny. It is now available in the Columbia University website, and it is digitally 100% accessible now. And parts of the manuscript are in the RSS library, of course, but I have never been to access it. For whatever reason, I have not had the opportunity to go. So the library, anywhere you can go, anybody's library is my library. It's India's library. India is nobody's father's nation. So I could have easily gone, but I didn't have the opportunity. But I read it. And every pore of your being, Rom mein Ram hai bole. It's not the Ram of whatever it is, not Sita's husband, but the Rama who is pervading, the spirit of him is pervading throughout India unlimited. That Ram, Kabir Das ji said, Man mein Ram, Tan mein Ram, Rom mein. In every pore of my being is Ram. God, the Brahma. रोम में आपका आग लगा दिया जाएगा, वो किताब. Just read it, for God's sake. You'll find it. Columbia University Digital Library. You just need to log in free. But without a login, you won't be able to access. Maybe they already, Z Library has kind of, pilfered and produced a PDF. I do not know. I don't need to know because I have access to that and I'm ready. Rome mein aag laga diya jayega. Aisa. It's a wonderful history. The history of the so-called Sepoy Mutiny from the point of the Sepoys. From the point of the Sepoys. And as we know, all of us know, that as Chinua Achebe wrote, that the history of jungle will never be written unless the hunter stops writing it and the lion becomes the writer. But this is exactly what Savarkar did to establish the armed, concerted, well-planned revolutionary movement, of which the greatest gurus were Rashbihari Ghosh, Netaji, and Bhagat Singh, and Sardar Udham Singh, and Chandrasekhar Azad. And who not? Aurobindo Ghosh, Aurobindo Ghosh, Ullas Katkatto, and so on and so forth. But now to my favorite, Dhingra. Dhingra came over to meet Savarkar in 1906. Dhingra was 23. He was born in 1883, just as Savarkar in the same year. Dhingra was 23, so he came over to this India house. He made tremendous friends with Savarkar. He, as a Borologet chile, he was never bothered about Indian revolution and freedom movement and anything. He had enormous amount of money to spend. Initially, he was a top favorite with the girls around, but under the influence of the friendship with Savarkar and another key figure, V.V.S. Iyer, who translated into English the Maratha copy of the first Indian War of Independence. He was a very key figure. But for him, the English manuscript would never have been accessible to us. So under the influence of Savarkar and Iyer, VVS Iyer, very interestingly, by the way, Mahatma Gandhi came to meet Savarkar in 1911. And Savarkar was very suspicious of Gandhi because of a role that did not suit the Mahatma. He supported the massacre of the Zulus. Well, then he did not become a Mahatma. He did not have that moniker. He was just an activist in South Africa, a very major activist though. But he supported the British killings, massacre of 4,900 Zulus in the Zulu revolt, and as a compensation to the British Empire, offered to volunteer Indians to become soldiers who would fight for British in preserving the dominion of South Africa. Why? Because he had a purpose. His purpose was that if you are made to be an integral part of the nation's army, then the nation would not be able to harm you. So that is a different story, but his role was debatable. I do not support his role there. So they were very suspicious of Gandhi. Gandhi came, and Savarkar knew very well that Gandhi was a vegetarian, and Savarkar was deliberately cooking prawns. And when dinner time came, Gandhi said that I cannot take my food because I am a strict vegetarian. And Savarkar retorted back, how can you work with us if you cannot share our food? Another key visitor, thrice who visited Savarkar between 1910 and 1911 was Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, who was not a joke. I am not asking you to be supporters of Lenin. I personally do not believe in Sreni Sangram, but Sreni Samman. I do not believe in Sreni Sangram. I believe in amalgamation of all Srenis. But particularly, I do not believe in Srenis. I do not believe in Srenis. Somebody was, talking big about subaltern history and all that. So, unfortunately, I had been present there. And I asked Ramchandra Ghosh, who the hell are you to call somebody else subaltern? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you to decide who is subaltern? And what are you? Are you an elite or a subaltern? Or nothing? Or in between? Or what? See, it's not a matter of joke asking Ramchandra Ghosh. And I asked him, তুমি কে? ছোট লোক বলছে, তাদের ইতিহাস লিখছো, কে? বাচ্চা ছেলে, এখনো জন্ম অন্যকে ছোট লোক বলছে। I do not believe in this Srenis. I am free. I am a free spirit, a blissful soul. Like one of my idols, Professor Chanda, who never brought in narrow, mean politics inside the class. Never. So what happened? Savarkar stood second as usual in his barrister's examination in 1906, but he was not admitted to the bar. Why? Because Sir Curzon Wheeling, the aide-de-camp to the then Secretary of State for India, Rashtra Mantri, কি বলে, Home Minister, যাকে আজকাল Home Minister, the then Secretary of State for India, he was the aide-de-camp, and he enforced upon him never to admit, because Savarkar you do not know, he leaves no track and he leaves no traces, but he is the wiliest snake in the jungle, quote unquote. ও সবচেয়ে ধূর্ত, ও গুলিও করে না, বন্দুকও মারে না, ও বোমও মারে না, but he is the worst. So do not admit into the British bar. So obviously his friend, this fellow Madanlal Dhingra, had harbored a terrible grudge against Sir William. Just a minute. William Curzon Wiley. The Dhingra's original target was Lord Curzon because he divided Bengal in 1905. But because Lord Curzon, he could never manage, so he first decided that this is at least one Curzon whom I will kill. And he had his own court, a small river. And he went one day, there was an opportunity. The Indian Association of Great Britain, it was a kind of, all sorts of Indians who used to stay there, who had gone there either for work or for studies, including student communities. They had gathered in one of their regular parties in the Indian Association Hall of India office. The India office was not an Indian office, it's a British office. And the purpose was, I'll finish in 5 more minutes, just 3 more minutes. And the purpose was to exchange ideas among the British and the Indians. And so, Curzon Wiley came a little late and he was, exchanging pleasantries with all people present there. And naturally, as a result of which, he also went and shook hands with Madanlal Dhingra and he was exchanging pleasantries with him. And suddenly, Madanlal Dhingra, he took out his Colt and shot him point blank 4 times, and then he went to shoot himself. By that time, there was a terrible scuffle, and he was -6. He was myopic, so his spectacles had fallen off, and he was, grabbed, and he could not kill himself, shoot himself. But look at his strength of mind. He was unfazed. He said, wait. Let me pick up my spectacles, and then I'll go. So before his arrest, he knew he would be hanged. Before his arrest, he had the guts, the grit to say, relax, let me pick up my spectacles and then I'll go. So he went there. Next year, he was hanged. His last wish was to have a Hindu funeral, which was not granted. He was hanged in Pentonville jail. His Vedic rites were performed not by his parents who disowned him, because unless they disowned him, they would incur the disfavor of the Brits, the rulers. And only Savarkar and 4 other friends of the Aurobindo Bharat had been there, standing outside the jail, to receive at least the shirts and the pants and the towel and the soap, the toothbrush, etc., which Madanlal used in the jail. And they were promised. And as usual of the British character, they were denied. They were denied. And what did I read out the last sentence in 4? The judge asked him, do you have anything to say? And see what he said. I quote, I do not wish to say anything in defense of myself, but simply to prove the justice of my deed. As for myself, no English court of law has any authority to arrest and judge me and detain me in prison, not to pass sentence upon me. I do not have any counsel to defend me, particularly for that purpose. And I maintain that if it is patriotic, mind you, if it is patriotic for any Englishman to fight against the Germans, if they were to occupy this country, it is much more justifiable for me to fight against the English, because I hold them responsible for the murder of 80 million Indians. I cannot say I end, but I simply plead to you, know your country. Let it not end here. Let your exploration begin. And that is why I have given a kind of short checklist. And I believe Professor Chanda was speaking to me. I do sincerely, honestly. I believe that all his teachers, all my their spirits were speaking to me, and their blessings were obviously showered. Thank you very much, Arvind, for calling me. I am a person who had always been against authority, and therefore I have been universally detested. But God only knows what made He call me and ask me to speak here. Huh? Huh?
Permitted. Just one sentence. Thank you very much, Dr. Chanda, for your very insightful and informative lecture. And original book. Very interesting. Now, since this is Sir's endowment lecture, I think it should be relevant to remember Milan Kundera.
Yes.
Milan Kundera's favorite, we have said it again and again, his conviction was that, yes, what's the power? Establishment try to make you forget truth, forget real history. But the duty of the author, the writer, the historian, the artist, the painter, the photographer, that is what they did during the Prague Spring of Czechoslovakia, when Russia invaded Czechoslovakia, just like it is doing today, I think. And Milan Kundera repeatedly reminded them it is our duty, historian's duty, author's duty, painter's duty, artist's duty. It is the duty of struggle. Struggle of memory against forgetting. Struggle of memory against forgetting. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
আজকে তো এটা ভীষণ ইম্পর্টেন্ট না ব্যাপারটা আমি এটি না পারলে কীভাবে মারা গেল এইটুকু তথ্যই পর্যন্ত টপিকে আগে যাচ্ছে আর আমার কীভাবে যাকে স্যারের প্রয়োজনে বলছেন বলে
This invigorating lecture on framing of the syllabus will go a long way to evoke sensitivity in helping the policymakers in the field of this education. And thank you, Professor Rama Kundu, again for your insightful addition. Thank you, sir, for your illuminating talk. It was in fact more than a talk. It was exploration of an area which touches deeply with the academic aspect of our lives. Now I request the faculty members of the department to hand over a small token of love, a memento, to Dr. Suman Jana. We are thankful to Dr. Chanda for accepting the small gift. Now I request Dr. Aurobindo Ghosh, head of the department, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
As I said in the welcome address too, that the genesis of this program lies in a suggestion offered to this department by Professor Rama Kundu. So obviously we readily grabbed this opportunity to pay our tribute to one of the founding fathers of this department as well as the institute. When this institute started its journey way back in 1960 under the stewardship of another great leader, Dr. Vinayak. So obviously we are grateful to Professor Rama Kundu and also to Mrs. Sulekha Sen, our Dean. She also came forward to help us create this endowment fund. And today's program is an outcome of the efforts of these people. And the department obviously stood behind me to have this program like we are having it today. And our authorities, the lead and director of the institute, Professor Anupam Basu, the present director, Professor Arvind Choubey, they have always been very much supportive of the efforts of this department, these academic endeavors. And in spite of his busy schedule, Professor Choubey always spares his time to attend the programs of the department. So it is quite a matter of great honor for us. And about Dr. Suman Jana, I was a bit apprehensive that whether he would at all come to deliver the lecture or not. But I was sure that since it was a matter of Professor Chanda, he would surely come. And he did. We are grateful to him that he has chosen a topic, selected a topic which is too much relevant for contemporary India, when we have quite a different kind of evaluation of Savarkar and other great freedom fighters. He threw light upon the actual facts. He threw light upon the realities which are not usually brought to the fore. So we are thankful to him that he has helped us to have a kind of insightful reading. So how to read insightfully about history, about freedom struggle, about all these matters. And we are thankful to him also that he, in spite of his fragile health, has managed to come here and attend this program and spoken for more than 1 hour, and we are happy that after so many years we are able to listen to him. And finally, we are thankful to the authorities of the institute who have provided logistic supports and all kinds of supports to organize this program. So thank you all. Before we leave, we must have the national anthem as per the protocol of our institute. It is a national institute of national importance.
Jayane Bharat Bhagya Vikata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkal Banga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchchal Jaladhi Taranga Tava Shubha Name Jage Tava Shubha Ashish Mage Gare Tab Jaya Gatha Jana Gana Mangala Dayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Jaya He Jaya He Jaya He Jaya 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 He.
Very much for your patience, presence. So after one picture, then we will join.
Oh.
ठीक है सर